Hello everyone, my name is Kerry Ramirez from Studymove, and in this weekly chat we're going to talk about the number of student visas granted for higher education programs in Australia. There is a very interesting amount of data that is relevant to tune student and recruitment strategies that comes from this chart, and for this reason we are sharing some of our analysis with you. Starting with an impressive result that comes from the second half of the year in the number of student visas granted for higher education program. As you can see on the screen, during the second half of the year, we nearly reached 180,000 student visas granted. This actually represents an impressive growth of more than 36% in comparison to the peak that we saw back in 2019 before COVID hit. Now, this impressive growth is so interesting that I think it's important to have a look. And one of the main things that is important to note is that this impressive growth actually happened towards the end of 2022, in particular during November and December. These 2 months gave us some impressive numbers on the monthly number of student visas granted, as you can see on the screen. The number of visas granted in November and December were record numbers that we have never seen before. And also, it's interesting to see this chart by nationality. And I'm happy to report that the majority of the top markets actually have some healthy growth during this period as well. But interesting to see to the top 2 source markets for Australia, which are of course China and India. In the case of China, it's interesting to see that the number of student grants for Chinese students actually are reaching the same levels that we saw in 2019 and 2018, as you can see here on your screen now. For India, continues the impressive growth, and we reached nearly 30,000 student visas granted, which is way more than what we have seen in previous years. These 2 markets actually give us 52% of the total number of student visas granted in the second half of the year. A very interesting insight also comes from this chart when we drill down and look at the type of students who are getting the student visas granted. We have 3 main groups of students. A group of students who are young students between 15 and 19. Then we have a second group between 20 and 24 years old. And then the third group that we can call mature age students who have more than 24 years old. Now, very interesting to look at this green group that at the moment it represents 34% of the total number of student visas granted. And it's very interesting because this is the group that is growing at a fastest rate. Back in 2019, this group represents only 28% of the total numbers. But also what is quite impressive is the actual growth that they have. In comparison to the peak that we had in 2019, this group is 60% larger than the peak period that we had in 2019, showing that mature age students are one of the main factors of growth that we have seen in the last few months. I hope this chart of the week was useful for you. If you have any comments or feedback, please contact us. We're always happy to help at the Studymove, and see you soon next time.